And we're live. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tori, and today I have booktuber, I'm pointing to the wrong direction, booktuber Mike. You might have heard of him from Mike's Book Reviews, on with me this evening to talk about something that we both really enjoy in our fantasy and sci-fi. So Mike, welcome back to the channel. This is your, third time on?
I think so. Thank you so much. It never gets old. It never gets old. I love coming on other people's channel because I don't have to edit anything. It's lovely. It's beautiful. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's nice when you're not in the host seat for once. Yeah.
But see, then I feel bad about taking over their channel because I talk too much. So
it's fine. See, that makes my job easier. So you are welcome to talk all you want.
All right.
This is Mike featuring Tori Talks. So one of the things that I have noticed in the past in watching your channel and having discussions with you is that we oftentimes overlap in our opinions about coming of age stories and stories with young protagonists and YA in a lot of instances. And this is a topic that I've always been really passionate about because I write about young protagonists. And so I'm always kind of watching to see what the pulse of that is in the community. And there's been some very interesting discussions that I've seen around these different story elements. And so I thought we would just get on and have a low-key chat about why we like coming of age and young protagonists. And I do want to dip into YA because you've had some really good insights about YA on your channel recently. And you read Scythe was one that I know you talked a little bit about. So yeah, I want to dip into that and chat. For anybody who hasn't, for whatever reason, subscribed to Mike, his channel is down in the description box below. So
and if you're watching, if you're not subscribed to Tori, shame on you. Subscribe.
Thanks, Mike. We're here to get each other subs, really, you know. Yeah. Hey, John is here. Also, everyone should be subscribed to John Minton.
Yeah, he's like really good at this. He needs to slow his roll. You're supposed to pay your dues first, sir. God.
Am I the only one that feels really old watching all these new booktubers and like, man, I need to get some like new lighting or something?
That's always been my struggle, especially this setup here. It's like I can never, because my computer monitors are so bright, I can't get it just right here. But yeah, I watch a channel like his. Or Brian on BellTube, who just started. Their lighting's like
incredible.
Like, I'm in year 5, and I'm still trying.
Right.
Things, so.
I have kind of a janky lighting setup with like a bucket light sitting on my bed to make my room brighter, and I've got my like ring light sort of. At least my face is lit up, you know. Casey, hi Casey. Another person everyone should be subscribed to. Let's see. Hey Britton. Andrew's Wizardly Reads is here to cause chaos. Excellent.
I've heard of him. He's here to talk about why he's going to DNF all the
books we recommend. Yeah.
Yes, Andrew, every time.
Zen. Hey, Zen. I once saw Mike describe himself as a loyal old hound to the tropes I love when I referenced Mike and coming of age in the same sentence.
All right. That's okay.
Yeah, I get that. We like what we like, you know?
You find something that works, you know, and to me, it's like I'm a creature of habit. I'm very much in a routine type. I find something I like. I'm the type that goes to the restaurant. I know what I like. I'm going to get the same thing every time because I know it works.
Why take the chance on getting something that's gross?
I like to try new things, but I also love what I love, you know?
Right. Yeah. So do you feel like, kind of as a way to kick this off, do you feel like, because you've been here for 5 years, and I mean, you've been doing the BookTube game for a while. Do you feel like you are more settled in what you really like in reading than when you started your channel?
Yeah, I think I was trying to force, because I do say, you know, for all things fantasy, sci-fi, and horror. And a lot of people point out, well, you're mostly fantasy. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's my favorite. But I will talk about those other things. I didn't want to just call myself just someone who talked about fantasy. But I also don't like to break it down by like, you know, all these new hybrid genres that people talk about, like romantasy. They just combine genres now and create like a new subgenre. And I try not to do that. But I think I did try to force a little more sci-fi, and it didn't go well.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Hey, I like to read fantasy with a little bit of science fiction sprinkled in every now and then, you know? Yeah. So you stick with what you know. I mean, like I said, I'll try new things, but I will say, I'm going to be 95% fantasy.
Yeah, same. But I never want to like put a box around it and say I'm never going to talk about anything else. Because yeah, like you, I have other genres that I do dip into now and again when I need a break from, because I need breaks from fantasy every once in a while where I'm like, I just need to read a memoir.
People keep recommending like these like really hard science sci-fi stories, real philosophical and stuff. I'm like, dude, that's just not my thing. I know you guys love it. It's like, you guys are just gonna be upset when I don't like it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I like hearing them talk about it because they're super excited and passionate, and I get probably more enjoyment out of hearing them talk about it than I would about reading it.
I can listen to Chris Carracchio talk about Gene Wolfe forever, and I'm like, I also think that I would have way over my head if I tried to read that. So I'm like, I'll just listen to him. It won't make sense from him either, but hey, at least it'll be interesting to listen to.
I'm in the same boat. My husband's a big Gene Wolfe fan, and I'm like, I'm so glad for you that you have that. That's just
what I say today is like, you can keep all your like quantum equation sci-fi, and I'll just keep reading like Red Rising and Star Wars. Where it's like, is that physically possible? Probably not, but was it a lot of fun to read? Oh yeah.
I am excited to jump from once I finish the Red Rising series. I am excited to try Sun Eater because I think I will enjoy that. Let's see. There were a couple of comments I wanted to grab quick before I ask the first official question.
Sure.
Hi Tori, first time caller, long time listener. Will you be doing coming of middle age program sometime? I don't know. I feel like that's more Mike's thing than my thing.
Middle age? What is it?
I don't know. Are we supposed to talk about coming of middle age? We're out of the young protagonists. We got to talk about our middle age protagonists. I feel like people talk about middle age protagonists all the time, to be honest, in fantasy.
Just want to talk about them like just kind of breaking everything into subgenres of subgenres now, and it's just like when I say, "Hey, this is a horror book," like, "No, actually, it's gothic horror," and I'm like, So I don't know. Is middle age,
coming of middle age.
So is that like a 30s or 40s something? What is that? What is middle age actually considered? Like, what age bracket?
I don't know. I would consider that like 30 to like 45, maybe. I don't know. 30 to 50.
Like your parenting years, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't know this was a genre. Okay.
I didn't either. It is
Dad
now.
Fantasy. This is going to be.
Of course, Brian makes up his own genre. Are we surprised by that?
I wonder what costume he's wearing right now as he watches this. Honestly,
did you see the thumbnail for his Friday video? It's awesome. Yeah. John, funny story about that. I went to choir on Tuesday night, and there's a young gal that comes and sits next to me in the alto section, and she told me that she was born the year I graduated high school. So yes, it is possible to make me feel old. Hey, Marcus. Let's see. Kindles and Kicks. Kellen, watch Tori's quitting TBR video earlier. Great stuff. Embrace the mood reads.
I wish I had that gear that Tori has. I told her when she said, I was like, man, I admire you for being able to do that. I would just be a disaster.
I mean, if it makes you feel better, I've only been partially successful in completely kicking the TBR. I do have a stack of books that are waiting for
I had to kick February. The read-alongs. I had the read-alongs. I had to really buckle down because I was like, man, I'm joining like so many of these. I got to stop. And I'm just disappointing people because I'm dropping out too early.
Yeah, well, I mean, eventually you gotta make some decisions so that you don't hate everything you read.
See, like with Madison, we were reading Codex Valera, and we were like, I don't know, a few paragraphs of book 2, and I was like, I think I'm gonna go. See you later.
Michael, hey Mike. Yes, we will definitely have some recommendations on this chat, I am sure. And I would not be surprised. You guys take a shot every time we mention Red Rising. Well, maybe don't, because then our entire audience will be drunk. All right, so the first thing that I kind of wanted to start with is why coming of age stories and young protagonists are important to the fantasy genre. Because obviously we have so many different, there's really something for everyone in the fantasy genre. Like if you name it, you can find something that you like. But specifically to young protagonists and coming of age, like from your perspective as someone who really is passionate about those kind of stories, what does that bring to the genre?
I think that coming of age in fantasy is important because it's a gateway in the fact that I believe that, it's something that we all had. We all have different ways that we grow up and stuff, but we all did grow up, unless you're starting really, really, really early reading.
Right.
But I'm saying that like most of us can always, no matter what age you are, everyone can say, hey, I did this, I had those formative years, I think. And with fantasy, it's just a great gateway because it can kind of transport you to like that other world, even though you can think, okay, well, I obviously never lived in this fantasy world, but I remember what it was like being like 13, 14 and life
being
was coming at
clueless.
you fast.
Yeah.
And fighting dragons and shit.
Yeah.
We all did that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in a metaphorical sense, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think too, like like you said, it is a common ground that everyone can start with, and also I think because fantasy, oftentimes we're being introduced to these massive scale worlds and these, really complex things within the story. And I think when you have a younger protagonist who is also in a point of discovery, it's actually a really good vehicle for us as readers to slowly be introduced to the world from a perspective that doesn't know everything yet. So it's not quite as instantly overwhelming.
Right. When you got those people are always like, oh, God, I just wanted to strangle the protagonist because they didn't know nothing. I'm like, you didn't know nothing when you were 13 or 14 either.
I know. Sometimes the way people talk about characters cracks me up because, like, I can't believe this character would do this. This isn't a rational decision.
Back when I was 15, they're way smarter than I was.
Right? Well, and even like, I know, okay, everybody, Red Rising is a great example. Darrow is literally 16 in the first book. 16. Yeah. Like, so a lot of the decisions that he makes or the way he reacts to things, just as an easy example, I was like, well, yeah, I don't know that I would react the same way now, but I'm also 32 and he was 16. So
there's lots of times. And I remember when I read the first book, Red Rising, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I feel like Darrow is always the smartest person. Because before I really thought I wasn't crazy about first person narrative, unreliable narrator stuff. I was like, of course, Darrow is not going to be thinking, God, what an idiot I am.
Right.
At that age, you think you're invincible. You're 10 feet tall and bulletproof.
Right.
But, when I reread it, I was like, dude, this guy just F's up all over the place.
Darrow's a hot mess.
Strangle him, so.
Yeah. Well, and I think the cool part about a young protagonist is another thing that I really like about it is that it really, when you build a solid supporting cast around that main character, it really allows the other characters to have more of a time in the spotlight where you're not just with a character who is, who knows everything or is the smartest in the room. Like it allows other characters to fill those gaps and be important more, I think. Because if you look at all the people around Darrow, like honestly, he's kind of just the face of everything. Like he does some things and then everybody kind of cleans up after him.
Oh, I can't wait for you to read the sequels. Oh,
I'm excited. God. I'm literally started. I've literally started my rereading.
So different after that.
I'm really well again, but Darrow's going to be older in those books, so I'm excited.
I think you'll find him even more relatable.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I've started.
Before you were young and you were doing this stupid stuff. What's your excuse now, sir?
What's your excuse now? He's just still yeah. he's endearing that way. Yeah, I'm almost through Golden Sun, and then I'm gonna finish up Morningstar because I was originally going to start with Iron Gold here at the beginning of January, and
full reboot, start all the way.
I was like, I don't feel right about this. I need to go back and really experience the story, and then go straight into Iron Gold. So
it's been a while. They do make lots of references, so it's probably a good idea.
Yeah,
and plus they're awesome. So
yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. Heidi wants to know, how come all the books start off with the warrior test? I can think of 5 or 6 off the top of my head. This is a good one to talk about. It's been going
a long time. It's like I hear I got a lot of people to read Ryan Cahill, and they're all like, why is this guy start just like Wheel of Time? Or not like Wheel of Time, like a Faithful to Fallen with a Proving. I'm like, oh, you mean like Shannara? You mean like a lot of these old fantasy series that we've been reading for decades? I mean, it's not. Yeah. That's what you would call a trope. And
it's a trope.
Fantasy has it. It's a great place to start.
Warrior School is a trope.
Like if you don't want to start with, okay, here's the village they live in. Here's all the little families. Here's all the friends. Here's their family tree. If you want to start with a little bit of action first, I think that's a good way to do it. Then you get into getting to know them. So
yeah, I do understand that it can be a little bit. I think there's a balance of too much Warrior School for sure. And when I was writing
Magic School, Magic School. Do we have another Magic School, another academy? I cut you off there.
No, you're good. With Bloodstones, the warrior school trope is in there, but one of the things that I said to myself at the beginning, I was like, okay, I can't avoid this for the story I'm telling. However, I'm not going to describe every single thing they do. Like, we're not going to be focusing on, then they did this exercise and this exercise. It's like, you know, I think there are ways to include that without it being the same old tired, the training montage.
Yeah.
All the slow-mos.
You just go to the next chapter and you'd be like, 3 weeks went by.
Yeah, and they were still doing the same thing. Let's see. I mean, I feel this, Daniel. I still feel like I'm 16 mentally most days, so I get that.
Becoming a parent will make you feel like a real moron. Just like,
for sure. Yeah, especially
like, why would you do that? Like, I'll be all the time be like, oh my God, why are you guys watching this stupid stuff you're watching right now? And I think back to some of the stuff I watch, I'm like, it's pretty dumb
actually. Yeah, especially when kids get to an age where they're like making their own rational thoughts about the world and like can talk to you, have a conversation and call you out on things. That'll really make you dumb.
Yeah, my oldest is watching Young Sheldon and he's been asking some questions already. I'm like, dude, you're 11. Can you just be 11? Stop it.
Chill. Yep. Zin is here to help you champion it, and we'll hear no slander.
It might come up. It may.
It may. This is not a fantasy exclusive over here. As we know, Mike talks about fantasy and sci-fi and horror.
Some more prominent than others, yes.
Yeah, that's all right. Let's see. Yeah, if you guys have some recommendations you want to throw in the comments as we're talking, go right ahead. And if you have comments or questions also.
Because what we're all lacking here is more things to read. So please.
Absolutely.
Make recommendations.
My TBR is, you know.
You already said you don't have one. You took a piece of TNT and you just no more TBR.
If I had a TBR. My bookshelves are empty. I have nothing to read, you know.
Nothing at all. Okay.
Nothing at all. So one of the things that I thought of when I was kind of thinking through this today too was the other thing that I think coming of age and young protagonists really do is the importance of recognizing children and young adults being affected by a very adult world. And I think in adult fantasy that's something that, you know, when people say, I don't want to read a book if it has a young protagonist, but they want all of this like brutal world kind of stuff. And it's like, well, you realize that the kids in that world are also affected by what's going on. It's just whether or not you're highlighting that as a, you know, perspective or not.
I'll never understand that. I don't like to read a young protagonist. For me, it's just like I said, we've all been there. We can all find something to relate to there. You know, it's instantly portable magic, you know, where you're automatically, oh God, I remember when I was this age. Would I have done that? Probably worse. Probably. Yeah.
Right. So is there a way that someone would write a young protagonist in an adult fantasy book that you wouldn't enjoy? Like, do you think there's a way for you personally as a reader that would be done in not the wrong way, but like a way that you wouldn't enjoy?
I think of a character like Lift from Stormlight Archive. It's not just annoying. I just don't like let's make the young protagonist that's clearly the smartest one. All the adults are idiots and they have to kind of lead the adults by the hand and show them that this is the right way to do it because you're just all old and don't know how to think. That drives me nuts.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't like Lift either. I got in trouble for that. Yeah.
I lost subscribers when I started Treasure.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't that I kind of figured as I was reading, I think I would have enjoyed Lift's character a lot more if she had her own story. I think because she was within the Stormlight Archive with a lot of the other characters that I did like, the contrast wasn't my favorite.
She did. I mean, I don't want to really just get off topic here. I just felt like she is from one of Sanderson's other series and somehow she jumped into Stormlight and I'm like, you just don't fit here, honey. But
which, you know, maybe
I'm just a guy with Wi-Fi. He's the multi-million book-selling author.
What do we know?
He can do what he wants. I'm just saying that's why it didn't work for me.
Shad says, "Don't hate on pancakes, Mike."
I mean, I like pancakes, but
not as much as Lift does, though.
I don't like it when you talk with your mouth full.
Yeah,
she does that a lot.
That's fair.
Yes. Oh.
That's the real reason you don't like Lift.
All
Also this too, I think, you know, and this isn't the only series I've seen that in, but when you have a character who's been, I think it opens up the opportunity to show how someone who's been very sheltered or kept in a very specific mindset or lifestyle then is exposed to a world that they didn't even know existed. And the like all of the different themes that you can explore with that are really powerful. Because I mean, all of us, regardless of age, I think to some degree have had that kind of an experience.
Yeah, like you think it's good. Oh man, I can't wait until I'm old enough to move out of my parents' house. And then that first year, you're like, lots of funeral costs, you know. It's like
adulting is overrated. Still is, by the way.
Oh, crap. Why isn't my laundry done? Oh shit.
I have to do it.
Do my own laundry? Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about Robert McCammon, because I have not read him yet, but I know you're a big fan. Talk to me a little bit about what you like about Robert McCammon, because he comes up a lot when we talk about coming of age stories.
What I'd said about, you know, instantly being transported back. There was stuff reading Boy's Life that I was like, holy, I haven't thought about stuff like this in like 40 years. But I was one of those kids who did kind of bounce around a little bit, military family. And it's a lot of things about that, like how characters just kind of like come and go in and out of your life so fast. And that just brought back a flood of memories for me. And I don't know. It's an amazing book. It's like if you'd have told me that it was written by Stephen King, I probably would have believed you the first time. It really is just like that good. The way that Stephen King writes coming of age, especially the way he writes coming of age with his characters, is just second to none to me for whatever reason. No matter how old he gets, he understands how kids talk to each other. And I think Robert McCammon is the closest, I think, for me besides him. But yeah, you got to read it. It's great.
Yeah. Is that the place to start with Robert McCammon if I haven't read him before?
I mean, if this what you're looking for is this, yeah. I mean, I still think Swan Song's my favorite book by him, but I wouldn't really necessarily call it coming of age or as a coming of age character. But you know, it's in a nuclear apocalypse, so obviously it's not going to be, you know, anything I feel like any of us can say. Oh yeah, that makes me think back to my first nuclear apocalypse. But you know, there is a coming of age story in it. But no, if you're one just like that particular, and that's the thing is I don't know. I'm a guy, obviously, so I don't know if ladies are going to have the same experience reading Boy's Life. I talked to Sarah, Sarah Reeds, and she said that she enjoyed it just as much. So, I mean, I can only say from my point of view, it brought back a lot of memories and, you know, just guys hanging out with their guy friends. You know?
I mean, I was a tomboy, so I probably relate more than I should.
You were probably right there on the fringe of, you know, riding your bikes until the streetlights came on at night. You're probably right there on the fringe of that. Yeah. So,
yeah.
If you're that generation, yeah, you'll eat that book up.
Oh yeah. Nice. Love that. I read, and I know you read it, I think recently too, because Outsiders has been one of my favorite films forever. And I know I got Mads to read it last year.
She got me to read it.
And she got you to read it. So you're welcome. But yeah, that was one too, that I just felt like if an adult can read something like Outsiders and say, man, this is a dumb book, it's just Young Protagonists. And like, I'm like, there's so much there, because I think.
Were you ever a kid?
Were you ever a kid? Like, and you know, a lot of kids and young adults go through really adult things before they're supposed to. And I think that's a theme that I'm particularly interested in exploring. And that's one of the things that I write a lot about. So I feel like I always gravitate to stories like that. But I think not just on the, you know, the darker and kids growing up too fast and trauma side of things, because that's, you know, more my realm. On the opposite side too, I think that it's important to have characters within. We all love those the cinnamon roll characters, right? Where we get into a novel and there's the character that's just too pure for the world that they're in. Right. Everybody always loves them and wants to protect them at all costs. And I'm like, I feel like that. And also Young Protagonists can bring this kind of levity to stories that would otherwise be 100% heavy. We need those little moments of something lighter or something new or somebody discovering something instead of, you know, just being the lone wolf who's jaded and hates everything all the time.
Well, I'm not one of those type of readers where I feel like I have to see myself. I have to feel like I'm representing this book. But a book like Outsiders, you know, I did kind of grow up below the poverty line. So a lot of things in that like actually hit pretty close. Now, thankfully, I never got messed up with like gangs or nothing like that. But, you know, a lot of things in that grabbed me a lot differently than something like, say, To Kill a Mockingbird did. You know?
Sure.
Great read. Great read. And I always knew it would be. It's just one of those that just I missed it. We didn't do it in my high school or my junior high, so I just missed it. Never really thought about it. So my wife could not stop carrying on about like, you've never seen it either. I was like, no, I didn't see the movie with the 5 heartthrobs in it that you girls all saw in the 80s and 90s. No, I didn't see that one, but yeah, we watched it after. It was very good.
Yeah, that's still to this day, in my opinion, one of the most faithful film adaptations I've ever seen. It was really well done.
I watched it like immediately after I finished the book, and I was like, yeah, this is. I missed when they did adaptation like this, and it was like the book on the screen. You know, amazing.
Yeah. I actually stumbled on it by accident because one of my favorite older films is Young Guns. It's a 1980s film that Emilio Estevez was. I love that film. It's one of my favorite films of all time.
I watched that about 200 times. So
Same. Yeah. I love that film. See, this is why we're talking about this topic, Mike, because you and I have very similar taste on this.
Let's roll out.
I love it. And well, I mean, not just Emilio Estevez was an amazing Billy the Kid, but there were so many other great characters in there. Doc is an amazing. I mean, we could go on about that for an hour. But I remember looking, I really like this film. What else has Emilio Estevez been in? And I saw The Outsiders, and I had no idea what it was. And I was like, I'll watch this. This looks good. And I remember watching it and just being completely blown away. I found Ralph Macchio because of that and watched all the Karate Kid films. So, like, honestly, that was kind of a, like, gateway to a whole bunch of my favorite coming-of-age stories.
I can watch that and just be like, this cast is ridiculous. Like, every one of these kids went on to be something. It was amazing. Yeah.
It was really good. So yeah, for anyone who hasn't read Outsiders and you're looking for an incredible coming of age story,
and you can read it in a day and a half tops. Yeah. It's really short.
It's really
and that's
short.
one of those where I talked about like the gender thing is like, who knew that a young lady could write teenage boys so well? You know, it's amazing. It's incredible.
Some of us hang out with boys when we grow up.
I think so.
Yeah.
The tomboy in Oklahoma. Yeah,
100%.
So.
I'm actually, one of my goals for this year is I've bought almost all, I think I have 1 or 2 left to get almost all of S.E. Hinton's books. And I'm going to do a read through of all of them and then rank them in like what I thought of them. Because I hear Outsiders being talked about quite a bit, but a lot of her other works I think are lesser known. So, and it also still completely blows my mind that she was like 16 when she wrote it. Brilliant.
Yes, guys, Something Wicked This Way Comes does count as coming of age. I guess it's a supernatural coming of age or a horror coming of age, but yeah, it counts definitely.
Yeah, I haven't read that one yet.
And that's you started getting in, like dipping into the themes of like facing your dark side and things like that. But that also has stuff like for once you get older and you see it from the dad's point of view with the kids, it's a different speed. So Bradbury, amazing.
Yeah, amazing. I have only read Fahrenheit 451. That's the only Bradbury I've ever read. So
it's good. It's very good.
That's another one. Yeah, we got some Young Guns fans in the chat. Love that. I need to rewatch that. I haven't seen that for a while.
Mean Girls is considered a ripoff of Heathers. That's what Mean Girls is. I will die on this hill.
I love that you have strong opinions about Mean Girls. That makes me very happy.
I remember the movie Jawbreaker came out, and I was like, "Oh, this is so great!" I'm like, "That's just a ripoff of Heathers." Then Mean Girls came out. I was like, "It's just another ripoff of Heathers." It doesn't mean they're bad movies.
Yeah. Oliver Twist. Yes, 100%. Artful Dodger is one of my favorite characters of all time.
Oh, Tom Sawyer. Huck Finn.
Tom Sawyer is also. Yep. Oh yeah, I grew up in the. I don't know if anybody else saw that, the Tom and Huck film.
With Elijah Wood?
No, with Jonathan Taylor Thomas and.
Oh no, I saw
Brad Renfro.
Yeah, I wasn't there for the JTT was a heartthrob age. I was already like.
I wasn't either. I just like Tom Sawyer.
I liked Home Improvement, so that's who I knew who he was.
There you go. I was not one of the girls that had the posters of people in my bedroom, and I never got into that. That wasn't my thing.
Hey, I got a hot take for you. The Sandlot is just the body, or Stand By Me, but with a dog and a baseball instead of a dead body. I mean, it even has Chopper in it, for God's sake. Chopper, sick balls. I mean, it's the same thing.
I can see that.
I told my wife, and she was like, no, and then was watching it do it like beat by beat. She was like, oh, bitch.
You're kind of right.
I love both movies. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love baseball, but, it's
Sandlot
a lighthearted version of the body.
Stand By Me was I watched that one a few years ago, and I was really impressed with it. That's a good one. I watched
that long before I read any Stephen King. So, yeah, that I was the age of those kids when that movie came out, so that was everything to me.
Yeah. This is another one that is a good film that I saw a while back. Yeah.
I haven't done that one.
Yeah, that was a good one. Let's see.
We're totally off topic, aren't we?
No, we're not actually. We're still talking about coming of age stories.
You're right. I feel like we're gonna start dipping into movies now. It's gonna be like, uh-oh.
Also, I know that some booktubers have very like solid agendas for their live streams. I'm not one of them. We can talk about whatever we want.
I usually don't make an agenda. I just turn the camera on and say, let's see what happens.
I like to make myself bullet points just so I have something to talk about. But usually when I have friends on, it's not difficult to keep the conversation going. So I know it's far in the future, Mike, but I think the coming of age part of Book of the New Sun will probably be a favorite element of it.
Yeah, Christopher told me that. He said you might not understand it, but yeah, it's there.
Have fun with that. I will eagerly await watching you talk about it.
I have the excuse if I want to finish Malazan first, and I was like,
how long is that going to take? Because have you finished Malazan?
I never got to start Gene Wolfe.
Right.
I'm on book 8. I've been on book 8 for about a year and a half. So
that is fair. I feel like that's how Malazan kind of goes, honestly.
I just have to get in the right headspace for it, and I feel like if I force it, I'm not going to like it. So
yeah, yep. Let's see. Where the Red Fern Grows makes emotional.
I won't cry on a live stream. I can't. Read that book, what, 33 years ago? And I still can't even talk about it without being like,
it's awful.
Can you believe they made us read that in 6th grade? Were they trying to emotionally fascinate us for life?
90s
Watership Down the year after that. It's like, gee, what are you guys doing to us? What are you guys doing here?
90s films. Like, I have told Ben, our kids have no idea how good they have it because the films we grew up with were built to traumatize us. Like,
still not okay about Artax, Never Ending Story. Still not okay. Still not okay.
No, it's always the animals. It's awful.
It's a cheat code. Yeah.
It is 100%. Oh, easy emotional trauma for the audience. Let's take out the animal. This is actually one that I was going to recommend this evening, Brian. So thank you for reminding me of that. Riverfall Chronicles, the Wickwire Watch, is a finalist for Spiffbo this year.
Oh, okay.
And if you like Oliver Twist, if anybody in this chat likes Oliver Twist, you should put this on your TBR because the main character, Inkwell Featherfield, who it's a very much young protagonist, coming of age with a lot of other things going on. He's basically the Artful Dodger. Like, he's a very Artful Dodger-esque character. So yeah, it was one of those books that I read and I was like, I'm annoyed that this is a debut because it's so good. It's like, how do people debut with a book like this? That's crazy.
I bet as an author that has to be annoying, right?
She's wonderful. She's amazing. She's a friend of mine and I've had her on the channel and she's awesome. But yeah, so anybody who hasn't checked that out definitely should. Who's Perrin?
From Wheel of Time.
Oh, that's
I think all of the Two Rivers crew are coming of age, protagonists in that story. Yeah, definitely. I mean, when that series starts, were they like 14? So yeah, definitely.
This is an excellent topic point for us to talk about, actually. So, Faithful and the Fallen. Love the series. But the coming of age character is one of the few things that I dislike about the series.
The other night that I was having my patrons chat, and they were saying that pretty much 80% of the room was saying they loved Faithful and Fallen, but they didn't like Corbin, or they didn't think that he was that great of a character. And talking about how similar Kaelin from the Brian Kyle series, the Bound and Broken was. And I was saying, I don't know. The difference is like Kaelin is like, I don't give a F what you're saying, whereas Corbin kind of just gets dragged around by his wiener for 3 books, and gets told what to do. So I can definitely understand why people don't like Corbin. I think I liked every character in that story, and I felt kind of almost like a proud parent when Corbin does like a specific something in book 3 that I don't want to get into. I almost felt like a proud parent. Yeah. But I also think that Corbin was kind of the glue guy. For sure, because all the other characters had like amazing arcs, and I felt like his, I mean, he was the traditional chosen one coming of age, and I liked it. I even think like his sister kind of had a better Kaiwa. She even had a better coming of age story than he did. But still, I love that series so much.
That's a subcategory, I feel like, within the coming of age genre, which is the chosen one trope, and this may be an area where we divert slightly.
You like chosen one?
I don't.
I mean, I think I can understand definitely that people are tired of it, or more is like them trying to just still do it, but try to act like they're reinventing the wheel.
Right.
No. To me, it's like, look, I love a Dark Lord. I like Stranger Comes to Town. I like,
Yeah.
you know, everything except Insta Love, really. I mean, I like all those things in traditional fantasy. It doesn't bother, but I can definitely see why it doesn't click with people, or they're just tired of it.
I think for me, one of the things that I like feeling the stakes of my story. And I think one of the things that Chosen Ones often can kind of take away from the stakes to some degree, because the plot armor usually on Chosen Ones is so thick that like I'm never concerned about anything that's going to happen to them.
That's why I'm on board with some of these series that are doing like 3 to 5 main characters.
Yes.
You know, instead of just one main character, because then anybody's up for grabs, you know. And
Exactly.
I would prefer that, but I know it's hard. It's obviously probably very hard as an author to say, I'm gonna write 5 main characters, you know, make none of them the protagonist, you know. So I don't know.
Yeah.
You're an author. You tell me how that works. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I mean, so I have 2 younger, they start out being 2 younger protagonists in Bloodstones, and they're, you know, I mean, Garen's 11 when the book starts, and it opens with him witnessing an execution. So like, I think too, the other thing that I will say is I think plot armor doesn't just include a character dying. Like that isn't the only big stakes thing that can happen to a character. So I do think that sometimes we get too much into this character needs to die for the stakes to be really high. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think balance is a big thing for me in that, where I had my young protagonists who were discovering the world and didn't know anything. And then I also have other characters who are in the thick of it and who know a lot more about the world and what's going on. So I think having multiple POVs helps in kind of balancing that out. I don't know that, I mean, Malice, Gwyn was like, 4 or 5 POVs, why don't we have 20? Which, you know, I mean, I don't know how he kept, kudos, he's brilliant, because I don't know how he kept them all straight. I don't know.
Someone was saying in the chat that he officially announced his 3rd book in Bloodsworn. I didn't know it was official
did he?
from him.
Awesome.
Because everybody kept saying it's got a date on Amazon. I'm like, yeah, you know what? So, Doors of Stone has had a date on Amazon every year for the last like decade. It's like,
so is Thorn of Emberlane, book 4 in Lies of Black Lamora.
I mean,
I know.
I feel like that one's going to happen before the other one that I just mentioned is. So.
Well, actually, I've heard from somebody else that Scott Lynch actually made a comment that there's some big announcements coming up with.
I know he turned it into his publisher like 2 years ago. So
I'm hoping. I'm so excited.
You guys that are all in on that series, I hope it happens for your sake. Yo, spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers, Brian. But I mean, it's the prologue. I do. That is something that I appreciate. I really love a good subverted trope. That makes me happy.
I like subversion that doesn't insult the reader, which is
100%. Yep. Let's see.
Well, I feel like this is a loaded question.
So, Mike, some modern day coming of age books that you would recommend.
I read one recently. I read Ascendant by Michael Miller. I really like that. And I feel like he did what I think you kind of be like a Chosen One, kind of plays with it in a way that leaves up to the reader, like kind of it presents the idea of, okay, well, you've kind of like grasped this situation and you might actually be like taking the person whose destiny it was to be that dragon rider. You might have actually took that person. I like that's just a wonderful idea.
Yeah, I like Descendant. That's another good one for anybody looking for Dragon Rider Rex. Yeah, Descendant's a good one.
If Bound and Broken feel like that's just too much for you right now, I feel like Ascendant would be the perfect like middle step in between that and something that's just like, you know, like Aragon below you or something like that.
Yep. Yes, the 3rd Bloodsworn is out in October. Nice. Yeah, if you're really going for the grimdark spectrum, you can always go for Game of Thrones.
Yeah, the coming of age where you gotta grow up really quick. You know,
really
you don't get to have those formative years. You get to have those formative days. You know, like you think about like what Bran and Arya go through in that series. Like, yeah, they have to go through it quick.
Yep,
I mean, it's rough. It's rough.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of. If I'm thinking of some historical fiction too for coming of age, the Yellow Sky Revolt by Baptiste Pan Wu. He's writing about the Three Kingdoms era civil war in China, and he tells it through the lens of a protagonist who is very young, and he's in the middle of this massive revolutionary war, and that worked really well because it was interesting seeing that kind of a level of brutality through the eyes of a very young character and how that shapes his formative years. So that's another one that I'd recommend if you're looking for a historical fiction. Jefferson, how do you feel about the teen who was hidden away from the evil or the other side by being raised in the middle of nowhere, who has to go and make his way in the world? What would make that trope work well?
It was actually his best friend.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think finding any way you can to subvert it in a way that's like, you know, challenge yourself as a writer and don't just, I mean, not that you can't write something that's been done and write it really well. That's also very possible. But, you know, consistently challenge yourself at each step of your plot line and just say, okay, what can I do that is true to my character that maybe wouldn't be as expected? Just to see if it works. If it doesn't, just keep on your merry way. We've got Beard of Darkness in the house. Hey, Matt. We've got some.
He had his own live stream. That guy's live. Every time I sign,
oh my gosh,
it's live right now. I'm like, man, do you ever get off this thing?
Yeah.
I respect the hustle. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, 100%. He's doing a great job. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss. I've got a full house this evening.
Terrific coming of age.
Simon. I haven't read that one yet. I want to, though.
I think all the people who love Robin Hobb, I think you would absolutely eat up Tad Williams. I really feel like a ton of people always make the comparisons to Song of Ice and Fire with that series. To me, it's like, nah, this just got so much wrong with the Elderlings. Like, the first trilogy, the Farseer trilogy, it's got so much of that stuff in there.
I'm about to read, speaking of Elderlings, I'm about to read the first Flagship Traders here in February.
Love Flagship.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Lord of the Flies is another one I need to read this year. It's on my classics.
Oh yeah. That's one that, like, me and my wife have argued about Lord of the Flies for years. She couldn't stand it. You know, I think it's anything that like they forced them to read in school. She's always like, where I'm like, I liked more that they made us read than I disliked.
Yeah.
For Lord of the Flies, I'm like, even if you didn't like that book, you just got to. That theme has been poached a billion times. You know, with the kids basically like having to establish civilization and it just being like a complete shit show. That's it's a fun book to me. I mean, it's fun as something that horrifying can be.
Yep. Zin, I am Team Neville all day, every day. Love Neville. Okay, so another. Let's see. See if I can get myself sort of back on topic here. Do you think, we kind of talked about stakes a little bit, but do you think that young protagonists raise or lower the stakes of a story?
Oh, raise. I mean, we don't need to be seeing young folks die. Talked about like, this characters, they're innocent. They must be protected. I mean, I feel like that. And maybe that's just like the dad side of me where I'm always like,
for sure.
Don't hurt the children. I think just like our human nature, like don't hurt the children kind of thing. But to me, it's I love characters that work hard. So seeing, young people make their way by just really just busting their ass and overcoming impossible odds. That's just, I can't get enough of that. Just feed me more. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, and then we're going to get into this in a minute because I want to talk about YA, but I think it seems like from what I've seen that a lot of people kind of think that it lowers the stakes of the story in the sense that it's not going to be as deep or complex with a young protagonist, which I disagree with, and I would assume you would as well. But
that's why I hate why everything that has a teenage protagonist now is considered YA, and I like I got that so many. I get that so much with Red Rising, and I'm like, I try to explain to people,
Red Rising is not YA.
It is an adult story with teenagers in it. This can't be a thing, you guys. It isn't. Oh, well, you're 19. Sorry, you're a young adult. Yeah, I mean. Just don't get it. So I guess, if you're a young adult author and you want to be taken seriously as a adult fiction writer, make sure you make your protagonist 20.
Yeah.
And you'll be safe.
Yeah. Well, and I think that goes back to, putting young protagonists in a position where they are facing a very adult, very brutal world and trying to somehow survive it. Because that's how I see Red Rising. And it forges them obviously into something very different than they would have been outside of that experience.
Ryan, people call Nevernight YA all the time. They call YA all the time. I'm like, what YA books are you? I mean, maybe Sarah J. Maas. I'm like, what YA authors having this descriptive of sex scenes? But
it's one of the reasons I haven't read Jay Kristoff yet.
I know Jay Kristoff's one of those where I'm like, look, I love him, but I absolutely understand when people are like, no. I absolutely understand.
Yeah, I totally agree, Daniel. I think there's a big difference too between writing about a young character and writing for a younger reader. Absolutely. Because that's going to completely change how you may even have some of the same content, a lot of the same content in those stories, but the way that it's handled and the way that it's portrayed and the level to which it is portrayed is very different.
Yeah, I mean, it has 7 preteens in it. Does that make it a YA book? I don't think so.
I mean, Bloodstones has a bunch of teenagers in it, and that is not YA.
I was going to ask you that. Is your book R-rated?
No.
Is it TVMA?
No. I wouldn't consider it R-rated. I'm definitely more in dark fantasy than grimdark. I think I flirt with the edge of grimdark every once in a while, but I don't.
So like on like a John Gwynne kind of level, or you have something, you have some violence, but you're not going to zoom in on the intestines.
I mean, maybe a slight tick farther than that.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I mean, I would say I'm not quite to Red Rising level, but I actually feel like Pierce Brown and I, in terms of how we are, like the philosophy on writing and how we approach writing and character design is fairly similar. But he uses a lot more words that I wouldn't, but he's also writing in the future where I'm writing in a fake ancient fantasy world where I don't feel like they would use these words, because that also really bothers me. Right. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, and has nothing to do with coming of age. But when you're in this ancient fantasy world and someone uses a very modern phrase, I'm just like, bye. I don't like that at all. So what are some of your favorite, we've sprinkled some of them in here, but what are some of your favorite adult fantasy and or sci-fi and or horror books that utilize coming of age really well?
I mean, It is my second favorite book of all time. It by Stephen King. I think what I love about that is I always say, if you like coming of age, you're in luck. This book has 7 of them in it, and they're
nice.
all good. And I feel like with the Losers Club, I feel like everyone will be able to find at least one of those characters to be like, that was my childhood right there. And I don't know if Stephen King's like friend group when he was younger was like expansive or what, but I felt like I either was one of those characters. I was Ben. I was the fat kid who got into high school and then lost all the weight and had like a completely different life. And your best friend, the girl that you were in love with was in love with your best friend. That was me. That was totally my life. So I was like, well, this is exactly. I mean, there's this guy peeking in my window. What the hell? But I feel like even if it's not that, you will say, I remember a kid like this one in there. But I think I love the way it deals with the hardships at home, solace just in your group of friends. Can make you kind of forget about those horrible things that are going on at home, facing your fears together. And this is all besides the big giant 8-foot tall scary clown with razor sharp teeth. It's all those other things about like how adults are like the real evil people and stuff. It's just, it has everything that I want. And then it has like those good old things that make you go, Steven, a couple times, that book's gotten the reputation for, but it's just an incredible coming of age story that will make you scared a little bit, but a lot more in like, I'm scared for these characters because I love them.
Right.
I love these characters. You feel like you are the 8th member of that club, and it's just, I've never seen it done as well.
Nice. Yeah, I've really debated back and forth whether or not I wanted to. I've never read a single Stephen King novel, which I know I've told you before. Yeah. Because horror is not my genre, and I really appreciate it for people that love it, but it's something where I have a very overactive imagination, and so I'm like, I'm not the type of person that wants to have nightmares for 3 months after I read a book. So I'm trying to figure out, like, if I want to brave it.
Well, I always say that I feel like you get to a certain age and a book can't really scare you. But you know what? I still take the long way across sewer grates and stuff because of that book. I still sometimes I'm like, let's go put the sink stopper in there because the drain's freaking me out a little bit. So I mean, there's things I feel like I'll stick in your head. That's for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Me, I'm scared of
Yeah.
spiders, and I saw that movie Arachnophobia when I was younger,
Ah,
and I still like check the lamp before I turn a light on. I still check under the toilet seat. I check the shower all the time for spiders, even though I live in an area where there's not a lot of spiders. But it's just
yeah,
you have
same.
a certain fear. So if you find something from a book like it that actually scares you, then yeah, it might.
Yeah.
Like leeches. I'm not scared of leeches. I am now. Yeah. So
Yeah. I mean, I not with a insect or anything, but when I was about 12 or 13, I watched the Poseidon Adventure with my dad.
nice.
I will never step foot on a cruise ship. You could not pay me enough money. You couldn't, honestly.
I think about it because I don't
Nope.
like the ocean. I'm really, really scared of the ocean.
Same.
And
Yeah.
we go cruising like every summer. And every once in a while, those soldiers start to be like, you know what, them rogue waves, that shit's real, man.
I'm terrified of deep ocean. Like that terrifies me.
And
And
is real, man. Yeah, it's
I've seen too many films with upside down boats in it to like ever be comfortable to go on a cruise
You ever
ship.
seen the remake with Kurt Russell? It's actually really good. It's just called Poseidon.
I don't know.
It was really good. Really good.
When did that come out?
Like 2005 or so. Yeah, it's really good though.
I wonder if that's the one I saw.
Oh, so it's more right. Yeah, the one I saw first was I think it was late 70s, early 80s or something like that.
Yeah, I saw the newer one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It was a really good remake.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. I'm missing the chat here. Sorry, guys. So I'm so annoyed over that, Mike. Why it just makes me go, what? Since it wasn't really a thing as it is now. That is a whole conversation in of itself, honestly, that YA as a genre has drastically changed since like when I was growing up and it was Harry Potter and then the Percy Jackson and all that kind of stuff. That was YA when, and Aragon and that kind of stuff. And now it seems like the trend seems to be that most YA is very like edgy fantasy romance. Yeah. Yep. Which is why
I first started Shout, I would say I called something YA garbage one time. And so it immediately became Mike hates YA overall. Because I know there are a lot of fantasy booktubers that do feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no. I don't dislike YA. I dislike certain tropes. I don't like
yes.
Love triangles can die in a fire. I'm so done with that shit. Please stop doing it.
Yep.
And the insta love stuff that drives me crazy. Or the world's ending, and I got to choose between these two boys. That's what's important right now. This stuff drives me nuts. So that's why I say, and just the wish fulfillment stuff.
That's what you call low stakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the thing. And I want to talk on some YA series or books that we really like. Cause I think I'm always I still love YA in terms of, that genre and finding series or books in it that really do what I want out of a YA book instead of, oh, well, yep, here we are choosing between which boy again.
So you just don't like romance? No, I like romance in a book. Yeah. You get earned. If I want these characters to get, not because they just locked eyes. And I do love at first sight is a thing. I believe that is a thing. Mm-hmm. When I read your story, make me want these characters to be together, not just because. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, from what I've heard, and I know Mike can confirm, no.
I remember I read Empire of the Vampire first, and I thought that had spicy sex scenes. When I was reading Nevernight at work, I was reading at my desk, and I was like so bad. I was like making sure no one was reading over my shoulder or something. I felt like I was doing something I shouldn't be doing. It was like you're reading your dad's Playboys when you were in junior high or something. That's what I felt like.
I never had that experience.
I read two the Lee Bardugo books. I did.
Which one?
Because today I made the joke about, I talked about booktube darlings and ones that I don't necessarily agree with. And I said, someone will probably drop in the comments and say, why didn't you bring up Sarah J. Maas? Well, I've never read a Sarah J. Maas book, but I said, yet, you never know what the future holds. Mm-hmm. So now I've got people being like, are you going to read Sarah J? I was like, I'm not scared. I read two Lee Bardugo books.
Well, I mean, as someone who has also read both Sarah J. Maas and Lee Bardugo actually has one of my favorite YA series, duology, and that's the Six of Crows.
Six of Crows, yeah. I love it. I was watching the show, and I was saying I never read Six of Crows. I was like, but I like those characters a lot.
They're good.
And people were like, I think you'd actually like.
I do think you would like it.
I probably would go back to that before I finish the third book in Shadow and Bone.
Yeah.
Well,
I've never read Shadow and Bone. I watched the series because I know enough about it. I watched the series and I
series
was
was better than the
honestly,
books. It was.
I've heard that. And I honestly skipped through a lot of the Shadow and Bone stuff to
Yeah.
watch the Six of Crows characters because I was like, I'm here for these guys. Like, I don't care what y'all are doing. I'm over here for, Kaz Brecker and his crew. Especially if, because he's a very, in that same line of the Tom Sawyer
I'm
and the
just glad it
Artful
isn't coming
Dodger.
back because I was really hoping they were going to spin off the Six of Crows cast into like their own show because I like them a lot.
Maybe that would be nice. Insta love is also one of my most hated tropes ever. Like, oh, our love will move mountains, and we've known each other for 3 days.
I like Stephen King. I even brought it up when I was talking about Dark Tower. I was like, these characters have known each other for 5 minutes, and he's in love with her. Really? I mean, I know what it's like to see a beautiful woman and you're in love with her. I know how that feels, but it's just like, Stephen, I mean, your character development is your thing. What are you doing right now? So yeah I'll always call it out.
I think
definitely. I was going to say
definitely,
that.
yeah. And I think now, especially, I think back when like Harry Potter was written, especially the earlier books, like YA didn't mean the same thing that it means now.
I still will call Harry Potter young adult. I don't know because I feel like it
I think the later books are for sure.
It does the the coming of age, and then it goes into like the you're actually got to grow up really quick kind of thing. That I think this series has so many dark themes.
It does.
That I think that's why it's so easily accessible to any age, any demographic out there because it just has so many things where I really just can't pigeonhole as young adult. It's really weird. It's just one of those unique series like that, I think.
Yeah. I read the first one in December, and one of the things that I found interesting about it was I was actually surprised at how dark I found it because I was like,
get darker,
yeah. And I was like, because I've seen all the films and stuff, and I grew up in that era, so I know everything pretty much. But I was really surprised because I actually had not a harder time, but I found it darker reading it than I ever did watching the films, which is the power of books.
The first two movies are like damn near scene for scene.
Exactly.
They are. So with me, Harry Potter, it deals with like grief and like beloved ones dying and stuff like that. I was like, this is pretty heavy.
Yeah.
For kids, I feel like. So I think that's why it's just no matter what age you are, people can enjoy that. I get all those people that are like, oh, I'm like in my 40s. I don't need to read those stupid Harry Potter. And they read it and they absolutely fall in love with it.
Yeah, I had a great time reading the first one. I'm hoping to read the second one pretty soon here.
But I'm reading Percy Jackson with my kid, and I'm surprised how much fun I'm having with it.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. Is like I think variety in the things that we read is usually important to most readers. And I think sometimes I've read so much adult fantasy that I'm like, I really need to just go and read a YA fantasy that I really love to just have a fun, take a step back a little bit.
Friends who would bust me and be like, you still watch Supernatural? You watch that stupid ass show? And I'm like, you know what? Not everything has to be an Emmy Award winning show. Sometimes you just want some candy. You don't need a steak. Not everything has to be Breaking Bad or The Sopranos, you guys. Those things are great. But you know what? I still like my Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I still like that stuff that doesn't require that much depth to really just involvement to get into. That's feel the same way with books. With YA, I'm like, sometimes I like not having to learn a cast of 900 characters and 40 different lineages and their territories and who did what to who 300 years ago. Sometimes that's nice.
Yeah, 100% agree. Let's see. I have had a couple of recommendations of King books. 11/22/63.
Oh yeah, that's another thing is like Stephen King does get tabbed. I feel like at this point he's wrote more drama and just thrillers than he has actual horror books. He's what he became known for.
Sure.
But like 11/22/63, that's a romance book. It really is. It's just got time travel in it.
I don't know if that's going to sell it to me more than horror.
It's a love story that will.
Okay, that's fair. If it's earned, I'm here for, because it's funny because I also have that reputation that I hate romance. Not true. I hate most romance in books because oftentimes I feel like it's not realistic or well written.
Right.
Or it's just annoying because the characters, like we talked about, is like an insta love thing.
Then that's not a hot take. That's a nuclear take, and I will not accept it. All right. I still have tear stains on the book from when I was reading it the first time. No joke.
Yep.
I was bawling. Yeah. No, I'm not going to spoil anything. It's just, you just know that Zen's wrong.
Yeah. So. Supernatural and Buffy are the greatest shows ever.
Love Buffy so much.
I'm trying to even think of like some old TV shows that I still
X-Files. I'll be flipping the channels. I see X-Files on. I'll leave it every time.
Let's see. Growing out of the YA genre back in 8th grade influenced me to stop reading for 4 years. Required readings like Siddhartha, Ellie Weasel's Night and Things Fell Apart kept me reading in high school. Nice. City of Thieves. I'm trying to remember who wrote that.
That ring a bell for me.
Yes, Brian. Fellow Slytherin in the house.
I took the test like 7 times and I got Gryffindor every time. So I'm just not.
That does not surprise me. One of the people
who've got to be hipster and say they're Ravenclaw just because everyone wants to choose Ravenclaw for whatever reason. Like, you guys remember Cho Chang? Woohoo! So, yeah. I mean, at least Cedric Diggory was from Hufflepuff. Come on. So.
Yeah, Cedric was an awesome character.
My kid did take the test in Hogwarts Legacy, and he did get Slytherin. I was like, oh, shit. Got a little scumbag in the house. All right.
Hey. Oh. Careful.
Hey, look, not everyone that's come from Slytherin has been evil, but everyone that's been evil was from Slytherin. That's the way I look at it.
I mean, I would argue with you on that one, but it's fine. That's a completely. We'll have to have another
Gryffindor person for sure. Wow. Okay.
Nope, I am very Slytherin. Yeah, a lot of people are surprised about it until they get to know me, and then they're not surprised about it at all.
Okay.
Yeah, Bellatrix is one. Well, my favorite character is Snape. My second favorite character is Bellatrix. Like, yeah.
I remember what it was like the 2 years waiting for the last book, defending Snape. Everybody being like, no, you guys got it all wrong. Like,
well, that's what I always tell everybody when Slytherin gets a bad rap. I'm like, the most loyal character in the entire series is from Slytherin, guys.
Fair enough.
Slytherins are very loyal. Like, if you can get inside our friend circle, we will die for you. Period.
Yeah, like Rickett, Crabbe, and Goyle. I mean, he could take a tree like shit. They're there. They're there. No matter what he needs, they're there.
Yep. I recently listened to Tom Felton's memoir and really enjoyed that. That was really good. Yeah, that was very good. I'm excited to read the books for, honestly, not for everything, but especially for Draco's character, because I feel like in the films, I always felt like they made him really whiny. And I had heard from people that in the books that he's not that way as much. So I'm looking forward to that. Watch him be like my favorite character through the books. We'll see.
Kaiju, Clarissa Explains It All. That you would say that show might have been my coming of age because I was in love with Clarissa. No doubt. I was that perfect age when that came out. That and this one girl from the show called Salute Your Shorts on Nickelodeon. I don't know if anybody remembers that one.
I totally agree, Brian. That's because I feel like Slytherins can spot them from a mile away. Like, you're a Gryffindor, aren't you? But hey, we're having a chat on the channel, and we haven't, come to fists yet. So yeah, we're doing okay.
Well, see, there's just people on my Discord lately that have just been really just going all in on us Harry Potter people, and we're like, you need to stop. Y'all need to stop. It's like you're starting to get to the point where we're actually going to start fighting here.
Chill. Yeah, you got it. Well, that's part of the reason having a big Discord. That's scary. You got a lot of small fires.
It's like people who haven't read it, they don't understand what people love about it so much.
Yeah.
And it's like just well, you just got to do it. And, well, I tried. Like, no, you just have to read the whole damn thing. You just have to. So.
Yeah. I also agree. Ryan's point of the romance. This is a trend in YA right now that I really hate. It happens in adult fantasy too, but like glorifying really unhealthy, toxic relationships in romance.
Do you remember when Twilight first blew up? And I was just
I was in high school.
What does everybody love so much about this? So I full disclosure, I'm one of those people. I'm not going to trash something without reading it.
Mm-mm.
So I read the first 2 books in that series. I'm not proud of it, but I was like, really? So all these ladies are in love with this Edward guy, and he's a complete
stalker
asshole to this girl. And I was like, why does everybody like this guy so much? I was like, have we really got this point where I was like, oh, well, girls just like the bad boy. You're supposed to like the idea of it, not actually like it. So, I don't know.
And I think there's a spectrum of bad boy characters, and some of them are much more tolerable than others. I grew up in high school with the Twilight thing. Was like very new and fresh, and all of my girlfriends were obsessed with it. And I had a friend that was like, you need to read it. you got to read Edward. Oh, Edward's amazing. And I was like, okay. My very tomboy self was like, all right. So I read them, and I remember being very confused. I was like, did I miss something here or what?
I mean, I just have to, and I don't like to do this, but I feel like maybe that was that the first series you've ever read, kind of thing? You know, I don't want to try to, because that just makes you sound like such an elitist when you say something like that.
Yeah, book
And I
schnob.
try not to do that, but it's just like, she's not a good writer. I just did not understand why. Like I looked at like Hunger Games. I understood why it was so popular. She was a good writer. I was like, I felt like she had talent. I was like, I did not feel like Twilight was well. It felt like I was reading somebody's blog, and they didn't understand how to use sentence structure. So again, I know I'm not the target demographic. I accept this, and again, she's still cashing checks. So I mean, she did something right.
You're not alone, by the way, Mike. There are other people in the chat who have read it as well. So
I think a lot of guys were like, "Oh, I'm going to read this, so I
See
feel like
what
I
all
can
the fuss
join the
is about.
conversation." You know.
Yeah. Well,
I think
and
we watched all the movies too, except the very, very last one. We were like, "These are just."
the one thing I will say about the films, which I've read all the books other than the new like Midnight's one, because I didn't need Edward's perspective on anything. But the movies, the one thing I will say about them is I appreciated that, and I won't spoil anything for people that haven't seen them, but that the movies were willing to actually take on a specific aspect of the plot that Stephanie Meyer completely chickened out of. So, and if you've read, you would know, like anybody that's read it will know what I'm talking about, but I don't know that anybody needs that, Brian. See, for me, I grew up where vampires were underworld are my vampires. That's my vampires. So when Twilight came out, I was like,
Anne Rice is my vampires, yeah. So you know, even she even started getting a little sexy with her vampires. You know, I think she fell victim to it, but yeah, I'm at the age where vampires were scary. You know, even though I love Buffy, but I felt like, you know, again, that was a love story I felt like was earned, you know, in that show.
Well, and I liked in Underworld that, like, yeah, the vampires are very enticing because they're meant to be, and they are also terrifying because they can kill you without thinking.
Glamour. I mean, look, now if a vampire looks like Kate Beckinsale, bite me, please. You know, I mean, please take my blood, you know, but it's just Kate Beckinsale could take my blood, please.
I also really liked what they did with the vampire elders in Underworld.
Oh, no, I like the first 3 movies. That's where I like to say, okay,
100%.
I got a little past that.
Yep.
I mean, I like the prequel one too. That was pretty good.
That was one of the only film series where the prequel, I was like, that absolutely holds up to the standard of the first two, for sure.
I don't know. I started watching the 4th one. I was like, I mean, I like her, but
yeah. You're a Dresden Files fan, correct?
Oh yeah.
Okay. There's a whole book in the series that's a vampire kind of theme one, isn't there?
I mean, there's a whole storyline with vampires. Oh, cool. They come back and stuff. But I feel like the 3rd book, to me, felt like I was watching an episode of Buffy, and that was really what got me into the show. Like a lot of people are like, oh, you got to get to like book 4 or 5 before it really takes. For me, it took off at 3.
Yeah, that's what I was told too.
I wanted a new Buffy the Vampire Slayer or an Angel kind of series, and I felt like that's what it gave me.
Nice.
Dresden Files are great because they're snacks. They're such entertaining books. Dude, no, Heidi, stop it. Here we are again talking about toxic, abusive relationships.
I don't know anything about. I've seen a few clips in my lifetime of Buffy, and that's it.
Buffy people,
but I have heard of Spike versus Angel. That I know about because everybody argues about that. Brian.
I said that today. People have told me that it gets good at book 3. I was like, I'm done with that. I'm done with people telling me, you gotta get to like book 6 or 7. No. I will accept the first book isn't the best, but I'm not taking any more that you got to get to book 3 or later.
Well, there's so many. I mean, I feel like at this point, and especially being booktubers, we have so many books to read that I'm like, if you're going to tell me to not waste my time, but essentially like read 2 or 3 or 4 books that I'm not going to love. I got 2 or 3 or 4 books on my shelf that I know I might love a lot more than that I'd rather put that time into. So I avoid. I'm still willing to listen to people talk about it, and that's
what I get on the Wheel of Time fans for. I was like, can you guys quit telling every new person that starts Wheel of Time that books 7 through 10 are boring? Can you stop doing that?
That's what I was told.
Hey.
Everybody was like, "Oh, you just got to read like the first 3 or 4 books, and then you'll love Wheel of Time." And I'm like,
I
no.
did, but I just I don't know why you're chasing people off by telling them these 7 through 10, these 4 giant books are really, really slow and boring. That's okay. It's a choice.
Well, and that goes back to a whole conversation about like individual expectations of pacing and all that kind of stuff. So, let's see. I think we covered a lot of the.
Just inadvertently.
Yeah, which is fine. I love that. I do want to dip a little bit into YA, and I feel like we've covered this a little bit, but I feel like, and I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like a lot of the current trends in YA have really upped people's reluctance to get into YA in general. Because when I walk into my Barnes and Noble and I go in the YA section, it's like 75-80% romance, you know.
Paranormal teen romance. That's big at my Barnes and Noble. Yeah.
Yep.
It's not just like the romance. I think from my end of it, I think that look at the Star Wars sequels. It's kind of you're seeing a lot of that stuff in the modern fantasy, the Mary Sue, Gary Stu. They think just chasing people off. We want our characters to struggle some, and just making them girl bosses or perfect guy. Who really? I mean, I'm sure clearly someone loves it because they keep writing it that way. But I'm just like, I want my characters to actually struggle a little bit.
To be real people.
Oh, no, there's something bad happening. I wonder if they'll get out of it. That's got to be such a boring thing to read. I just don't understand that.
I don't either. Yeah, I do think a lot of the kind of pants character, and I mean, you know, Twilight and a lot of the other things that came after that, not just in the paranormal romance sphere, but I think a lot of that, like you said, there's a certain point where, yes, as a young person reading fantasy, we want to be able to relate to the things in the books. But what I found when I was younger and reading was I didn't want to be the main character. I wanted to feel like I was in the friend group. I wanted to feel like I understood these characters, but I didn't feel like I needed to just like put on a pair of pants and be Bella, Bella Swan suddenly. And I think sometimes that YA leans heavily on that, where it's like, oh, well, let's make this character so relatable that like they have no personality of their own.
I prefer it like the president test would say, could you get a beer with them? I like my main character, if it's a male protagonist, be like, is that somebody I could get a beer with? Sure. Yeah. That's kind of have the male protagonist that I want. I don't want them to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know? And then there's someone like Darrow, which I'm almost like, no, I don't think I could hang. I'm pretty sure I'd get stabbed in the eye if I hung out with him. But I could hang out with Cassius. That's my dude right there.
Cassius is an awesome character, and I will stand by that. No doubt. Period.
No doubt, it's my dude.
We definitely need to have like a full spoilers Red Rising chat at some point.
Sure. Oh man, when you get to the sequels,
100%. Yes, I am planning on. You guys are going to be so sick of me talking about Red Rising this year, and I know that I talk about it all the time, anyways. But I'm like, this is my Red Rising year, and I'm so excited. There is a question actually before I go there that I want to check. Any recommendations of fantasy books that have strong men's mental health themes? Great question, Marcus.
I feel like I just talked about this recently and I'm drawing a blank on what it was.
I'm looking at...
Gosh, I mean, Dark Tower has a ton of it. I think that one thing I do really, really like about Sanderson is he does write a lot of damaged characters.
Mm-hmm.
So Stormlight Archive has several like that. And
I would also argue that even in my opinion, I actually like Sanderson's mental health work in Legion, The Many Lives of Stephen Leeds, more than I like it in Stormlight even.
I have Legion because a lot of people said that was like his tribute to Michael Crichton, which is one of my favorite authors ever. So I feel like I have it, but I haven't actually read anything outside of the Cosmere yet. Maybe I should try that.
That's still if it's not my favorite Sanderson book, it's in my top 2 or 3 by far. So I actually think that the way that he explores mental health in that series, and it's very short.
Stay on here, Marcus. Maybe I'll think about it. But I was talking to my wife about this recently about something about this. It's driving me crazy.
I know. I'm trying to think too, because this is something that like I should know this
Well, I
because
mean,
this is one of my
video game
main.
called Sinuous Sacrifice, where the character is actually schizophrenic, and you can hear like the voices in her head and stuff. And we were playing that, and it got me thinking about like makes me think of this book or this book, and I forget what it is now. Gosh.
I would also say, so I read, and this is not. I recently read Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier, which is 1990s fantasy. And while the main protagonist is a young girl, that's an amazing coming of age. That was what I wanted to mention to everybody in the chat. If you haven't read it and you love coming of age, it's incredible. Very dark fairy tale vibes. Really good, very, very dark themes that are handled very well, mental health in general. And one of the things I really liked about it is not only do we get the main female protagonist's mental health journey, but her brothers, because it's the curse of where the 7 brothers get cursed and she has to that's not a spoiler. And her brothers, there's a couple brothers in that family that I thought she wrote the mental health arc with that really, really well. I also just read Sword of Kaigen, and I would say that there are some excellent mental health themes in there. With no spoilers, but there is a male character in there that I was like really surprised by how she handled that.
Yeah, and then Stephen King, Dark Tower, he has dissociative identity disorder. He was writing about stuff that people were scared to write about back then. Because this is back when people, believe it or not, guys, in like the early 80s, people still thought like schizophrenia. They thought that was the explanation was you were possessed by demons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. People still have that assumption about DID sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm always a little hesitant with books that are like, oh, this character has a DID, and Dark Tower is one that I've been really hesitant to try because I'm like, okay,
he did his research. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Like, people who have suffered from it said that's one of the best depictions I've seen.
Okay.
So it's not exactly the same, but I think that the series I'm reading right now, Priest of Bones, is the War for the Rose Throne by Peter McLean.
Yes.
They all
Excellent
have
mental
battle
health.
shock,
Yes.
PTSD, and they all suffer from it pretty bad. And I feel like that's
really well done. And that's one that like he introduces it in a really powerful way in book 1, and that continues through the series. It's not just something that's like there in the first book for shock value. Yeah, I definitely agree on that one. I'm actually in the
book 2. It's really good, man.
I am on book 4. I'm going to finish book 4 pretty soon.
Would you say it's still good?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very interested to definitely keep me updated when you start book 2. He went in a direction that I wasn't really anticipating.
Oh boy.
And I still haven't figured out how I feel about it. But the characters are very similar through the series. So I feel like if you really love
book 1, guys.
Yeah. Priest of Bones by Peter McLean.
You might clutch your pearls a few times, but it's
yeah, it's
good. That's
good.
why people have been breaking to me a long time. So I don't know why I was surprised at how much I liked it.
They're also very fast reads. Like they're not long,
like
and they're also
15 pages. Man, I finished it quick. Yeah.
Very accessible books for sure. Let's see. A lot of the problem with YA these days is that the majority of the target audience isn't equipped to deal with confrontation and uncomfortable situations, and I blame the modern education system. Well, that's fair.
Zip.
Yeah, I know. Fair.
I'll just say, yeah, you might not be wrong. I don't know.
Because he has his stupid handsome face. That's really, yeah.
I mean, he's just got such a nice chin. I mean, what Terry was saying there is I do think that's a problem with writing all your protagonists being like perfect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is if you don't know, you don't have to overcome anything. There's no struggle. It's like your character doesn't have to work hard like at all. What are the stakes?
Yep.
They're going to get out of it. That's worse than plot armor.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually very excited about that. I'm not going to say any more because I don't want spoilers, but I'm looking forward to seeing how he handles that. I know. Mike's like,
And I didn't think anybody would get worse than Spike and Buffy tonight. Good Lord.
I have Dawn of Wonder. I was sent that recently, and that's a chunk, but I'm excited to read that one. Wheel of Time.
Sorry, I'm 12. Every time I see that, I'll laugh.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. For someone who has only been reading fantasy for years, but used to enjoy space opera, would you recommend Sun Eater or Red Rising?
Kind of depends what you're looking for. If you're wanting a more character study, philosophical approach, I'd say Sun Eater. I mean, it has a lot of that stuff in it too, but whereas Red Rising is just full on like Dune meets Star Wars, and it's just like we don't have to explain the science to you. It's awesome though, like this is this awesome action scene. And if you're the type that's going to be like, wait a second, now in a real situation, their propulsion would be doing this through the gravity field. No, then it's probably not going to be the series for you. But if you just think, that's freaking awesome. They're using like giant metal suits to like make themselves into bombs and launch themselves into the ground through the atmosphere. That'd be the series for you. Whereas Christopher's going to be a lot more science, like way super futuristic. Whereas Red Rising's like 800 years in our future.
Do you feel so? As somebody who's read both, I am nervous about Sun Eater because of the level of philosophical and
look. I won't lie. I am glad that I am personal friends with Christopher Rocchio, because I will sometimes text him and be like, "Hey, can you explain this part?
What is this?"
Like I'm 5, because it's like I don't know where you're going, what that meant. And again, I think
so glad I'm not alone.
That I'm not into. If you're one of the people who loves the science fiction, where like you're like, I don't know if this is really happening. I don't know if this is a vision. I don't know if this is a dream. I don't know if this is like a paranormal state. You love those type of books, then yeah, you'll probably really be in there. But with me, I feel like he is just really good at character study, and I do like some good character work.
It did just occur to me, another really good adult fantasy series that deals with mental health themes is The Last War by Mike Shackle.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's also a good one. Both female and male protagonists with...
so glad you liked that.
I did.
It's one of those things like you really bang a drum for someone to start something, so they don't like it, and then when they actually start it, you're like, oh shit. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. I will still say that the first book is by far my favorite, by far. Because things we can talk about that.
No, I've never seen another book like that, where basically your heroes kind of like lose the beginning, and then you're dealing with that occupation. I'd never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, so it was really good. And
you talk about the shittiest of characters and you find yourselves rooting for them. I was like, that was the first time since like First Law there've been characters that shitty, but I wanted to see him succeed, so yeah, he's good. Mike, write something out soon, quick, hurry.
Yes, shout out Mike. Brian is in the middle of Shogun at the moment, so I caught that reference. Are you reading it right now too?
Yeah.
Nice. I'm excited for you guys. It's so good. I loved it.
We're I think he just finished part 3. I'm going to read part 3 here pretty soon. I just finished that new Larry Correa book, and now I'm going to start Shogun here probably in the next day or so.
Nice.
By that, we're breaking it up over 3 months.
Yeah, that's what we did too, and that was a better way, I think, to approach it. And
did you read it with Alan?
I did, yeah. It was Alan, Joanna.
Because a lot of people seemed weirded out when I said I was going to break it over 3 months, and I was like, I don't know, that actually sounded brilliant. That Alan did it that way. I think that's a great idea. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's
a break from a 1,600-page book. Enjoying it.
The thing with Shogun too is it's a lot. Like it's a big story. But to me, every single one of those 1,300 pages is earned minus chapter 40. Right. If you cut chapter 40 out, it's a perfect book for me.
Okay. All right. I mean, so you remember a particular chapter number? Wow.
Oh yeah. We had a whole chat in our Discord. It was just the 4 of us in there, and we had a whole, I think Alex was the first one to get there. And he dropped something in the chat and he was like, so chapter 40, when y'all get there, let me know. So yeah, you have that to look forward to.
I've seen the miniseries, so I wonder what it is. But all right, I'll hit you up when I read it. All right.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Kaiju. I feel like we're just, it's fine. Just good to hang out. Forgotten Warrior. What is?
Oh, the Son of the Black Sword. It's Larry Correa's series. Saga of the Forgotten Warrior. I finished book 1 today. I like it a lot. I feel like this is one of those where if you don't need to understand, what every blade of grass is, what every tertiary character's family tree is, you just want like straight up meat and potatoes kind of fantasy.
Yes.
It's just like the closest thing to like a thriller I've seen in fantasy maybe ever. It's so fast paced.
I would read
I'm
that.
really into it. I'm really into it.
Nice. Yes, Michael, I hope you enjoy it. I've really, really loved that book. That's currently my favorite Grimdark book I've read.
If you like Grimdark, I don't see any reason someone wouldn't like that series. It's everything I love about the subgenre.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
You read one and you just like feel stupid because it took you so long to read it. That was me reading that one because I'd had it on my shelf for like 2 years.
Oh, I have so many of those. I mean, I've had people recommending me Sword of Kaigen for at least 1.5 to 2 years, and I just read it in January, and I read it and I was like, "Yep."
Yeah, like, I read it when I got that Kickstarter edition, and it was very nice, very nice. But like another book. To me, it felt like a really good like setting the stage to read Shogun. You know, kind of got me that kind of samurai mood. Yeah.
That is another book that I would love to have a discussion on just in general, because there's so much there. Because they are coming out with the series, the TV series, and now Mike has had a whole thing about that.
I've gotten blamed for selling it out, apparently. Because I showed it in the video right before I started, and everyone was like, holy crap. And because I put the link down below and didn't hear nothing, then like a couple weeks later, people were like, oh, it isn't there anymore. And I'm like, what are we talking about? And someone actually like even got in touch with the publisher just saying like, yeah, it's gone because they want to do this tie-in edition for the show now, which doesn't look bad. Just doesn't look like that.
Right.
You know, and then you got to think about it. It's amazing because that is a beautiful special edition. It was like $20. You know, I was like, that's something you would probably see for like $50, $60 somewhere. And I had just bought one for Caitlin, one of my patrons, for her birthday, like about 3 months ago. And I had no idea. And now they're going on eBay for like $200. So like, dang, I should have bought like 5 of them, you know? Yeah.
Well,
so, if you see it, guys, grab it. If you see it, grab it.
Yeah. I bought mine right before we started reading it, and I think I paid $18 on eBay.
Wow.
Yeah. And I love it. And I was the only one of the 4 of us that actually read the hardcover.
Yeah, I read some of it,
Yeah. You need like a good pillow to brace your wrists on.
Because someone was like, why, you know, you usually read through them a lot faster. I was like, well, I'm not taking that giant tome of a book to work with me. My work bag's already heavy enough. So I'm just reading it just at home, you know, because I do read for like an hour of my lunch break every day.
Yep.
And like, well, just put it on Kindle. Like, nah, I got this beautiful edition. I want to read from it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have to check out Forgotten Warrior because I'm intrigued.
It's pretty cool.
Jefferson wants to know, how old is too old for the characters to be coming of age?
Out of your teenage years, I guess. If you're 20 and you still haven't had your coming of age, I feel like I could include up to like a 25. I could buy that. Shoot, I'm still learning stuff today, and I'm 45. You know, but
Mike's in the middle of his coming of age. I feel
like as far as like forming that person you're going to be, you should have in your teenage years. You know.
Yeah. Yep. I would agree. Not that I'm, an expert on that, but I would put that up into your like early 20s, because I feel like I did a lot of changing between my teens and early 20s that was kind of solidifying who I was going to be. I was discovering who I was going to be, and then I think it solidified more into my early 20s. And I feel like I'm still changing. And I'm in my 30s now, so
wait for your 40s. You'll be like, man, I can't believe what an idiot I was in my 30s.
That's the thing about life, Mike, that's so frustrating, is that no matter what age you are, everybody's always like, just wait until
you have one kid, and they're like, oh, wait until you have 2 of them. You know, it's just they're not wrong.
No, they're not. But I'm like, well, yeah, but right now I'm 30, and that's all I've
moment. Yeah.
I can only experience my 30s right now. I'm working on it. I don't want to rush it. Let's see. We kind of already touched on everything. So let's recommend some YA for everybody in the chat. For people that are like, I don't know about YA, what are some YA books that you would recommend to a non-believer?
I feel like there's different levels of this, because it kind of just depends on, your age, what you've read before, and things like that. Because I think about the people who went from like Harry Potter to King Killer. I feel like that was a pretty good. I have my problems maybe the win. I feel like that's a good transition.
Yeah.
Because it'll get you a little more up to speed with some purple prose and some epic fantasy kind of feels, and you just make you feel like a different some world building and stuff. Because I feel like you don't you have that, but you have it on different levels in YA. You know, you don't have it like you do with some of these epic fantasy series. So, I mean, obviously the younger ones, Harry Potter, I think any age, but you know, if you're junior high age, I say Percy Jackson, Chronicles of Narnia. I'd say even go up to as far as like Maze Runner. Maze Runner is a really good series, I think.
Yeah.
And I read that, guys, in my 30s, and I freaking loved Maze Runner. And me and my wife, we like bought that box set, and we like we went and saw the first movie of Maze Runner, and we liked it so much, because the whole box, the books were out at that point. We read that whole trilogy like over a weekend. That was great. But yeah, I think that's no matter how old you are, I think that one will kind of click for you. But you start getting into like the adult fantasy. I always tell people, God, it just really depends on what kind of reader you are.
For sure.
Because if you're one of them who can't handle having a cast of bigger than like 10 people, it starts to get hard for me to really recommend stuff, because just about everything I could think of now, especially, it feels like you got to have just like this large sprawling cast. So I don't know.
Yeah. Really quickly before I give you guys some recommendations, thank you, Kaiju. That is very kind of you. I appreciate that.
You're the best. Yeah, that's great.
Book money. Always need that, right?
That's what we do this for. That's the whole reason I do this, honestly. Book money.
Right? For the like 10 cents you make off of all of your shorts.
Yeah, I mean, I did that short that's got like 70,000 views. I got like a quarter. It's awesome.
Wow. Rolling.
Yeah, I know, right?
What about the Skullman's trilogy by Naomi Novik? It worked along great.
Recommendation a lot.
Yeah, I haven't read it either, but yeah, for sure. I would say, and I don't know if you would agree with this, Mike, I thought Scythe was actually a really decent.
I didn't like the last book, but the first one.
I haven't read that one yet.
Awesome. Yeah, the first book was terrific. I loved it.
Yeah.
The Giver, Lois Lowry, I thought that was really good. Read that this year. And these are another one of those ones that people say, you know, why didn't you read that in junior high? I'm like, well, when that book came out in 93, I was already in high school. I'm that old.
Right.
That's how I kind of missed that one. But To Kill a Mockingbird was one of the first real big YA coming of age stories I read. It was one of those things in high school. They assigned you like 2 chapters this week. And that Friday I sat down with it and I read the whole book because it was so damn good. And I've read it a dozen times since then. So I think that's not necessarily fantasy, obviously, but you're looking for like one of the perfect coming of age books. And around a lot of the things that people don't like to talk about, like civil rights and stuff in that time period in America. It's really good. It's a really good story. Yeah. It's good to test of time.
That's one that I still haven't read yet. That's one of those, because I was homeschooled. So a lot of my reading was in a lot of books that most other people haven't read also.
Wow, you didn't have to be around people? So jealous of
no. I was actually around people a lot, considering, especially in my middle school years. I did a lot of outside stuff, but yeah. A lot of the like required reading stuff that most people have read, I hadn't. So let's see. I'm looking to. So I do want to recommend, if you like historical fiction, Yellow Sky Revolt by Baptiste Ponsonwu is definitely one that I would recommend. I've talked about that one on my channel before. Also, this isn't YA. I'm doing more coming of age. Well, yeah, no, those are not YA. But also another good historical fiction coming of age is Khan Eagleden's, oh gosh, it's got 3 different names. I don't remember. His Genghis Khan series. That first book was incredible.
My whole life I've said Genghis Khan. Now they want us to say Genghis Khan. I'm like, I just can't.
It's fine. Say whatever. Hard. People know who you're talking about.
I watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure last night. I was like, they call him Genghis Khan.
Another really good YA series that I love is Graham Salisbury's. He does a historical fiction series about Japanese Americans during World War II that is excellent. Under the Blood Red Sun is the first one, and it's fantastic. Yeah, exactly, Brian. We just know Genghis Khan over here on BookTube.
This is one that I feel like is a very, very trendy answer, but I think it's a good one. You're first getting into adult fantasy, but you still want like that kind of the young adult feel. Mistborn, Erewhon, Brandon
100%.
Sanderson.
Yep.
Perfect gateway, not only to Brandon Sanderson, but I feel like to like a strong magic system, all that kind of stuff. I think that's a really great place to start.
Totally agree. Lies of Locke Lamora is another one that I will throw out there. That's
if you want to take a nap. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I will kick you off this stream.
I think that's a fine book. I don't think it's the cure for cancer like most booktubers do.
I love it so much.
funny. I thought the dialogue was great.
It's still in my top 5. It's still in my top 5. The one that I just mentioned earlier, Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier is excellent. Let's see. As far as YA goes,
you're going to cheat. You're going to actually look at your books. Now I get to know.
Well, yeah, that's what I have them here for. That's why I set up this nice booktube like shelf situation. For YA, Ascendant by Michael Miller, I think is a really good one for anybody that likes Dragon Rider with a little bit of a Chosen One twist.
Legend of Dresden by R.A. Salvatore.
Yes, I need to read my first Dresden book pretty soon. Six of Crows, man, like especially for anybody that really loves like the heist Motley Crue kind of stuff. If you like Lies of Locke Lamora, honestly, try Six of Crows because it's I kind of look at it as Lies of Locke Lamora's younger brother, as in terms of storytelling. So don't let Mike dissuade you.
Yeah, no, right. That's a very unpopular opinion.
Yeah, I love Lies of Locke Lamora, and I actually think that Red Seas Under Red Skies gets a bad rap because I actually loved it. I think it's an excellent sequel. There's pirates in it. Come on. So, yeah, it's very good. I think it's very good.
Well, that's all your only requirement. You're going to love Life Ship Traders.
Right? I'm excited.
Like one of the best pirate characters I've ever read in my life.
I have heard from a lot of people that they think that's going to be my favorite Elderlings trilogy by far.
Amazing. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yes, Kindles. 100%. Totally agree.
I feel like the sequels to those books, that's one of the kind of things that I think might have chased me off is I didn't feel about Lies of Locke Lamora like I did about Name of the Wind, where I was just like, I just don't get what you guys like about this. I understood what people liked about Lies of Locke Lamora. Life enough, I just didn't. What I said was, if this is the book that everybody says is like so good, the sequels are kind of divisive, I'm like, maybe it's just not the series for me then. So I just went ahead and said, hey, cool, I'll take one less series that I feel like I'm never going to get the ending to. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. As someone who's been reading A Song of Ice and Fire since the year 2000, yeah, I'm okay with like having one less series that I'm frustrated that they won't finish it.
Yeah. I actually think he will. I think we'll get Thorn of Emberlane this year, which I will drop everything
for. Is that the last book?
Huh?
Is that the last book?
I'm not sure. I think, help me out, fans in the chat. I want to say it's either the final or the penultimate book. Okay. I can't remember. Another YA rec, Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Really love that one.
Stardust by Neil Gaiman. Yeah.
Also good. Yeah. Spell Slinger by Sebastian de Castell. I really liked. That one is a little bit. I don't. I
have 4 of those. I was going to read them after I finished Greatcoats. I just never did.
Yeah. I have the cool like UK versions of the first 2.
The ones that look like playing cards?
Yep. Yeah. I'm a sucker for playing card covers. And then the one that I was actually going to mention too, Mike, Neil Schusterman, I've read 3 of his books now.
And Unwind?
No, Challenger Deep. This one, and this goes back to our discussion briefly about mental health themes, is that this one details the mental health journey of a young man who is based on the life of Neil Schusterman's son. They wrote it together. And I don't want to spoil what he has because that's kind of part of the reading of the book, but this is an excellent, excellent book. YA with mental health.
How about Percy Jackson? He's dyslexic.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And my 11-year-old is dyslexic, so immediately he was okay, yeah. So
I see myself, which is awesome.
That clicked right away for him.
Yeah. For people so I'm not a fan of V.E. Schwab. However, I did really like her duology, The Savage Song, the first book in particular. I really, really liked a lot. I read that a few years ago. And she uses magic music within the magic system, which I really like because I don't see that done very often. And also the idea of horrific deeds becoming manifest into creatures, which is also something that I really enjoy reading. So yeah, that's another one that I would recommend.
The fear of sounding like a freaking caveman here is V. Schwab, an author that guys can appreciate, because I mean I don't try to do that, be like, oh, it's a female author, I can't like it. I try to do that. I just understand sometimes, guys, there are certain demographics that books are written for, and I might not be one of them. So I'm not trying to be like, oh, I can't. I mean, I just read 15 freaking Robin Hobb books. I'm not like allergic to reading a female author. I'm just saying that I know sometimes I know Sarah J. Maas. I know that isn't written for me. You know,
right.
I understand that.
It's not written for me either, Mike.
I feel like with V. Schwab, you feel like that's not really like gender
I think it depends on. So Darker Shade of Magic, I did not land well on that one. I didn't really like it that much.
That's the one I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that one I wasn't a big fan of. I think Vicious by V.E. Schwab, actually, that guys would appreciate. That's one. It's two male best friends, and but they fall apart, and it's like a vengeance kind of arc.
Okay.
And then this Savage Song is YA, so you've got two teenage protagonists, but the I don't know. I really liked it. I think August, who's one of the main characters, I really liked his character a lot. He's a really solid teenage character, I think. I would also say Six of Crows is potentially something you can see guys appreciating. There is a romantic subplot in there, but it's not like it usually is in YA. I actually really liked it. But yeah, I would say Vicious would be one to try for male readers if you want something that's, if you're wondering about V. Schwab and whether or not she's going to be. I know, Kaiju, would you agree with that, having also read it? I think that would be a good place to start.
What's the guy with the cane in the sixth grade? Baz? Is it Baz?
Kaz Brecker.
I'd read just for him.
He's an amazing character. And that's also a really good depiction of mental health. She does a phenomenal job with that. Yeah. Kaz is a great character, but he's not the only, she does a really good job just in general with that whole motley crew. This is one I tried and bounced off of. I couldn't, the formatting of this one was way too hard for me to read. I couldn't get into it.
Christoph wrote with someone else? Jay Christoph? Is that him? Illuminati?
Maybe.
I think he's like Illuminate with like a 3 in it or something.
Yeah, I can't remember who wrote those. When I see it, I'll be like, oh, Kaiju had it. Christoph and Kaufman. Yeah. Okay. I can see where audio would be easier for that one, actually. There you go. Brian's got another vote for Vicious. Yeah, Shades of Magic I did not like. Let's see.
Yeah, people reading Boy's Life right now.
Love it.
Rock
nice. On. Yeah, I'm excited to get to that one. I haven't read any Robert McCammon yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Oh yes, thank you for that. Also, 100%.
No doubt.
Ender's Game is excellent.
And that deals with the ideas of coming of age where these kids didn't get to have a childhood. They had to grow up immediately. They're like 6 years old and they're like military geniuses because that's just what the world demands in that time period. Yeah.
And I have the slightly hot take that Ender's Shadow is better.
No, I've heard people say that. I've heard so many things about the sequels that they're the worst things ever, that's the best things ever. I'm just so scared because I love that first book.
Well,
so
I think Ender's Shadow is like it takes place at it's Bean's perspective on
the Bean book.
Yeah. The Bean book is amazing. I love it so much. And I liked Ender's Game a lot, but
some people say that the Ender books just get like super depressing. And I'm like, it's okay.
We read depressing books all the time. It's fine.
I mean, Pillars does have some coming of age characters in it because it does go through like 40 years and they're very young when the book started. Jack and Eliana are very, very young at the beginning of that book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other V.E. Schwab that I really bounced off of was Secret Life. Addie LaRue, whatever the first part of that title is. I read it and really did not like that one. I don't know. I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah, I've heard that's supposed to be pretty dang grim, isn't it?
It's pretty, that's pretty R-rated. So coming of age, maybe. I only met like 1 or 2 of the characters in it, so I don't know if there's a young protagonist in there at all. Invisible Life. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, I hated that one. And I'm sorry. I'm not saying that about the author. Just no hate to V.E. Schwab whatsoever. That book specifically, I really did not like. Okay, Rogue.
Is this like the where Stephanie Myers now is? Oh, I already wrote this one story, and let me just write it again from the other perspective. Is that what Ender's Shadow
is? But he did it really well. And I would agree to the point that meeting Bean in Ender's Game and then reading his story in Ender's Shadow is like, that's what I would suggest to people. Start with Ender's Game and then read Ender's Shadow, and you'll just have a whole
if I read just Ender's Game, I can read Ender's Shadow.
100%. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And not have to go into all of the.
Yeah, I guess it's taking place at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like, and that one's more of a kind of YA coming of age feel too, because it's Bean's growing up story, and I found his life story way more compelling than Ender's.
Sure.
But yeah. Well, that's all I had on my. I don't know if anybody needs any more recommendations. I feel like we've loaded up their TBRs pretty well.
I don't know. I feel like I just want to go read Maze Runner again. Just
right.
That was. Yeah, I watched the movies with my kid not that long ago, and the thing was, like, my wife and I watched that first movie. We liked it so much, we went and got the books, and that first movie, really faithful adaptation. Second, not so much. But I still watched them with my kid this time without that expectation. I was like, they're still pretty fun movies, and he loved them.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember having a really good time with the movie, and then reading the book and liking it not as much as I liked the first movie. I really liked. I can't remember any of the character names, other than Thomas. That's the only one I remember. But Thomas Brody Sangster's character, the one that he has a limp, I think, doesn't he? Maybe, I can't remember. But anyway, I liked his character a lot. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I just thought it was an interesting topic because I feel like YA and coming of age and young protagonists get kind of lumped together so much that I figured it would be easy to just kind of talk about them all at once.
Also, just remember, guys, just because it has teenagers in it doesn't mean it's a YA book. That's what
100%.
We should have learned tonight.
Right?
Not all coming of age books are YA, and not all YA books are coming of age. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. And because otherwise someone will message me later and yell at me for not promoting my books. Phased and Bloodstones both have coming of age stories in them. Phased is
for a second.
Oh, thanks. It's beautiful. Phased is technically a young adult novel, but it is dark and heavy and does not mess around. So
her handwriting's so pretty, you guys.
I was so excited. I was so excited to nerd because I was like, I want to get black cards and then get those like metallic pens to write on. So that's just cool.
Do you have anyone recording the audio for you?
Yes. So the audiobook is out on every platform except Audible, because Audible was like, oh, I'm sorry, you didn't want to go exclusive with us. You can wait. Yeah.
I heard they're controlling bastards.
They are. So it's not up on Audible yet. It will be at some point soon, but you can get it on pretty much every other audiobook platform. And my good friend, Andrew D. Meredith, who is also a fantasy author and narrator, did a fantastic job.
Oh, he read it for you? Oh, great.
He did. Great. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Someone like me that's audiobook illiterate, what are the other audiobook services? Because I only heard of Audible.
Spotify is the other really big one. You can get it on Spotify, and help me out, audiobook nerds, because I'm also not one. But there are
Scribd. I've heard of that.
Yeah. So it's on all of the major, like if you use an audiobook platform, you should be able to find it other than Audible.
So you don't audiobook either?
I'm learning. I'm intentionally challenging myself to read several audiobooks every year just to get more used to it. I really enjoyed Tom Felton's memoir on audiobook because Draco Malfoy read me a book. So and that was cool. And I like hearing people's life stories in their own words. And that was something that was really cool, is hearing Tom just talk about his memories and his upbringing.
Yeah, Madison told me that Dave Grohl read his that came out. I was like, that had to be really awesome. So that's pretty cool. I'm jealous. I wish I could audio like you guys. And I probably could for something like that, like a biography.
Yeah, that one.
The story.
I have a hard time focusing on them, and that one, I think memoirs are actually an easier way to kind of break into it, maybe. And I know my husband has said, because he audiobooks all the time while he works, and he said that it's easier with like a single point of view than it is with multiple points of view. That's harder to focus with that.
Wow, Leo, that's so sweet. Thank you so much, man. That just see right there. That's why I do it, guys. Because people think that I always just post like the mean comments. I get messages like this all the time. Thank you. Glad I could help. I've tried Dresden on audio, guys. it doesn't work. I think with me, if I'm ever going to train myself to do it, I'd have to do it with something that like I've already read,
Yeah.
Dune or something that I just know inside and out. You know that because I think I spend so much of my time listening to like sports radio or just podcasts in general. If your mind wanders, no big loss. You know, you didn't miss anything. With this, I tried listening to a Dresden Files book on there, and like I listened for an hour, and I could have told you maybe 5 minutes of something that happened.
Yeah.
So I just don't pay attention.
I did download, there's a new audio drama of Red Rising that I downloaded recently that I'm going to try.
Is that the graphic audio?
Maybe.
Is it one with like sound effects and stuff?
Maybe.
Yeah,
I haven't listened yet. I'll let you know.
Actually like messaged me wanting to send it to me, and I was like, I mean, you can send it to me. I probably won't listen to it. I was like, I don't mean to be rude. It's just like I just don't audio.
Yeah.
I was like, I can promote it for you, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, that's the only reason I even know what it is.
I mean, you promoted Shogun and it sold out, so I'd say that's fair.
That's what I'm trying to do for
so
people.
It all traces back to you, Mike.
I mean, I've sold out some series a few times, but I don't pretend that like I'm a good salesman or anything. But you know,
I think you do a pretty decent job.
Cool. Then you guys should start clicking my affiliate links.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Sorry, I bought a lot of Kindles. I know that.
Nice. I've been planning. So my Kindle that I bought a Paperwhite Signature, and that's been my first e-reader I've ever had. And I keep meaning to do a video about like, hey, my first e-reader and how I feel about it. And I've been meaning to do that for like a year now. So
I still credit that for why my channel I feel like took off a little quick. It was because I just talked about my eyes were deteriorating from reading off of an iPad. I was like, this probably isn't good. And I made that video. It's a terrible video. It's an absolute, like I go back to it and I'm just like, oh God, this is someone's first experience.
Why is it this one?
Yeah. It just 6 months did nothing. And then out of nowhere, just took off. And it's just wild. And all I was just saying was like, hey, I think I'm going to get a Kindle because I'm going blind. That's all I said in it. Really, really bad video. So
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no, I don't want that. Definitely not. It'd be like, people.
What a toxic audience, you know?
Right? They're the worst. They're worse.
Yeah, it's a completely different reading experience, but it's
And I do feel like I'm a traitor because I do, I prefer reading physical.
Oh, 100%.
I will tell you, it changed the game reading in bed because my wife is always like,
yes,
turn your lamp out.
Turn your light off. Yes.
Turn your lamp out.
Yep.
I can read in complete dark with my Kindle and it doesn't keep her awake. It's amazing.
And it also doesn't hurt your eyes, which is amazing.
Yeah. It's the thing that it doesn't have that harsh light. So you're actually able to still get, like, if you stare at your phone in bed forever, you're never going to sleep. You're never going to sleep. You stare at a Kindle, you can go to sleep because it doesn't really hurt your eyes.
It puts me to sleep.
Right. It's great. Like I said, I do most of my reading. I do an hour over my lunch break at work and like an hour at bed at night. It's great because of the Kindle. It really changed everything. So yeah. Do I feel like a traitor? Not really, because it's also better than, not having a 1 pound book like smash your face because you're falling asleep. That's great too.
I have had my Kindle drop on my face once, and that was still not a great experience. Yeah, wouldn't recommend it.
Don't smash your face, but I mean, it changed everything. It's easy. You don't have to have perfect lights. You don't have to worry about, like you said, breaking your wrist, holding a big book or something, getting the perfect one.
I love it for car rides because I get car sick if I read a physical book in the car, but I can read my Kindle in the car and I'm fine. So
not while you're driving, I hope.
No.
Wow, I thought I liked it. So, I like to read a lot. Jeez, can't even drive.
But we drive 45 minutes into the next big city quite often for kids things and church and all that kind of stuff. And so that time is great for reading when I can do it. So yeah. And that's the other thing is it's nice that it's so portable because I also I have a pretty big bag purse, but I don't like sticking my books in there because they're going to get wrecked that way. So
I said that we go on a cruise every summer. I remember our first couple of cruises, I actually would just take 2 giant bulky books with me. And now I'm like, I can take my whole library. This is great. It was awesome.
Pete, stay safe out there.
I saw someone eating a bowl of cereal while they were driving. So
that's an impressive skill. I wouldn't recommend it, but that's impressive.
Houston are crazy, so it's possible.
Yeah. Let's see. I think I caught up. I did. Sweet. Well, thank you guys in the chat for hanging out with us and being so awesome and all your great comments and questions. I always really appreciate I've the best audiences on BookTube. Honestly, they're amazing. And Mike, I guess, thanks for hanging out with me this evening.
Thanks so much for asking. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I was like, I want to talk about coming of age novels. Who should I have? Mike? First person I thought of.
On that one. Yeah. I love
Same.
it. Never get enough of it.
Yeah. And I will definitely hit you up for some Red Rising chats in the future, because that's going to happen.
I'll hit you up after I read Shogun chapter 40.
Yeah, definitely. I look forward to your.
No, I can't wait for you to read the Red Rising sequels, because I think you're going to love them. You're going to love / hate them.
Oh, of course. That I would expect nothing less. It's Pierce Brown. And that way I will have the entire what is available under my belt when I talk to him, so that I can officially get mad at him.
Start hounding him now. It took me like 3 years.
Well, he gave me full permission when I met him at the book signing. I said, the first, you know how we get like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I literally walked up to the table, handed him my books, and I said, Pierce, how do you feel about doing another BookTube interview? And he kind of looked a little surprised at first. And then he was like, yeah, just pester me on Instagram or whatever until I respond. Well, Instagram literally the week later put up their rule that you can only send one message until the person accepts it. So I was like, well, Twitter it is, I guess.
Start making some burner accounts.
Exactly. So, yeah. Well, anyways, thanks guys so much for hanging out with us. I hope you all have an awesome night. And I hope that some of our recommendations, if you choose to pick them up, that you love them and they're your favorite book ever. So have a good night, guys. See you later.
I love that uncomfortable 10 seconds that it takes to.
It's not ending. Here we go.